Sorry.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies!
Hey! We're hanging out with you, not live, but we're here to hang out with you and have a fun conversation about things that are going on in the world of entertainment for sure. I am the outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
I am Michael Vogel. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies. And there's Bosco.
Oh.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm a television writer and a television actor and an animation writer. Sorry, Bosco threw me off with all the cuteness. Where you can see some of our latest work on Netflix right now with Strawberry Shortcake Berry in the Big City, Season 2.
I promise I'll get to it after Love is Blind and The Crown. I promise I'll get to it, but those are my addictions right now.
They're 4 minutes, John. They're 4 minutes.
That's a good point. That's a fair point. And we are, of course, brought to you once again by Carbon Health, who continues to power and sponsor us here on the Geek Buddies. Head on over to carbonhealth.com if you have any healthcare questions, concerns, or needs, or download their app to have a doc in your pocket. 100 plus locations all over the country, 80 plus locations in California alone. All right. The way the show works is each of us brings up a geek news item, and then we talk about it amongst ourselves for your entertainment. We take a quick break, and then we jump into our main topic. And our main topic today is definitely dealing with Shawn Levy being tapped to direct a Star Wars movie. Our thoughts on what that Star Wars movie can be, why it's taking so long to get a Star Wars film come out, and if we actually are in any rush to see a Star Wars film after all the incredible success of the TV shows, including Andor, which we will be currently reviewing later on this week as well. So Shannon, Michael, I think you start us off. Michael, what do you got?
But I do think I want Shannon to kind of kick us off. I need some intro music for my first topic, please.
Do 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 do.
There it is.
Do 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 do.
Oh, it's
there.
Do 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 do.
Okay.
I'm
hyped, I'm ready.
Strike. So, all right, let's get
So Deadline and Variety and some other outlets reported this week that the Mouse House and Disney Plus have been meeting with writers, hearing ideas about what they might want to do for an Indiana Jones series on Disney Plus. So a streaming Disney Plus Indiana Jones series. No word on what that is. They are in early stages, clearly. But with Indiana Jones Part 5 on the horizon, and with Harrison Ford making it official that this outing as Indiana Jones will be his last one, Bosco's not happy about it. Bosco's really upset about that Harrison Ford news.
He's going to throw on Raiders right now.
He's going to go watch it. So like basically, look, obviously Indiana Jones, one of the biggest franchises that Disney has, and they've got some pretty big franchises. And so they obviously are going to try and figure out what they can do with it beyond Indiana Jones 5 and beyond Harrison Ford. And so what that means is anybody's guess. Could this be sort of a reboot of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which a bunch of us had growing up? Could this be somebody else putting on the hat and the whip for the small screen? I don't know. An Indiana Jones series is a little bit harder to wrap your head around than a Star Wars series or a Marvel series or a DC series. So what do you guys think? Good idea? Bad idea? What could this be?
Shannon?
I mean, it just kind of depends on where they go. I mean, they were very, very broad in what this is going to be, in that they're meeting with writers, taking ideas. In the wake of Everything Everywhere All at Once, a lot of people are very big on Kiwi Kwan. He has been he's going to start popping up in some more stuff. Loki season 2. He's in another Disney Plus series called American Born Chinese. I think the idea of a short round series is something that I think could be fantastic. Mm-hmm. Now, with that, it would not necessarily be a cheap endeavor, because if he's in his 50s now, this would be set maybe in the late 70s, early 80s. Like, what is an adventure series in that, what does that look like? I mean, we certainly had adventure series films set in that time, like Romancing the Stone, Jewel of the Nile. What could it be but I do think a short round series could be interesting. I also think, man, an animated Indiana Jones series would be great. Like somebody else putting on that hat, that is a very tall order. And I think, if you on YouTube, there was an artist named Patrick Schoenmaker, I believe his name was, who did a fantastic sort of little 2-minute, 3-minute thing of an animated Indiana Jones, where we got to see Short Round, we got to see some of the, the classic villains. There were so many adventures that we didn't see on the big screen. I feel like animation is the way to go. Like you can find a great sound alike for Harrison Ford. You can find great sound alikes for Henry Jones Sr. John Rhys Davies is still around. He could certainly come back and play Sala. That's what I would like. But I think we'll have a better idea of our opinions when they actually say what it is that they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the boat with you about the Ke Huy Quan series. I mean, this picture is just legendary, right? I mean, having them come together again, I saw a number of people immediately want to see this. And look, there's a lot of great characters that surround Indiana Jones that are not Indiana Jones. You've got Star Wars doing all these characters like Boba Fett series, the Mandalorian series, Andor series. Why can't we have characters that are involved in adventures without Indiana Jones? Maybe he's referenced. Maybe he's talked about. Maybe he comes in for a cameo and they de-age him for a cameo. I don't know. There's all kinds of possibilities. But I think it's probably going to be more the Sean Patrick Flanery, Indiana Jones, Young Chronicles route, where they kind of lay the groundwork for it all and see if they can reboot this franchise in a soft way by having an actor come in and play the character of Indiana Jones. And maybe the audience really gravitates to that character, that actor, and then that actor makes the leap to the big screen. There's certainly possibilities there because Disney works long game. They're not working short term. They're working long game. How can we get people to kind of warm up to the idea of a recasting of Indiana Jones, which is inevitable because they don't want to give up this franchise, and that's certainly possible. But Shannon, you make great points. I mean, there's been a Lego Indiana Jones that's looked really good. This animation stuff is incredible. This would be so much fun to see an animated series like that, and you could bring the actors back to voice those characters and maybe come close to simulating those voices as well themselves with technology and what have you. So I just love this as an idea, and I think it's a good way to revitalize the franchise without having to rely on old cranky bones over there to carry it every single time. So that's my thoughts on it, Mike.
I mean, look, I would love an animated series. I don't think that's probably in the cards. I think when they're looking at like extending the brand and kind of like continuing life, I don't think that they look as animation as their go-to. Granted, they should. Like Clone Wars kind of saved Star Wars in my opinion, but I don't know that that's the case. I think a short round series is a great idea. I also think it could be something totally different. We don't know exactly who the new characters are in Indiana Jones 5. We don't know where that's going to, what they're going to do with Indiana Jones 4 and how canon all that is. So, I think there's like with Shia LaBeouf's character, with new characters that are going to show up, there might be, I'm not saying I like the idea. I'm just throwing everything out there that's possible.
Sure.
There's a lot of avenues that they could explore there. There's also just like, to your point about Indiana Jones being this character, like it's a little bit different than Star Wars because Indiana Jones exists in our world. Like Star Wars is an entire universe you can explore. Indiana Jones, it's our universe. So Indiana Jones is kind of the reason that you show up. But maybe it's a brand new series about a bunch of modern day characters that we've never met before that are following in the footsteps of some of Indiana Jones' greatest adventures. So, I mean, I think this, and by the way, this is actually what happens in studios. What we are doing right now is kind of what happens. Disney reaches out to a bunch of people and says, hey, we kind of don't know what we're doing. Give us your best shot. So everything that we have all just announced could probably all be on the table. And like they come in and Kathleen Kennedy is sitting there and whoever else is sitting there and you go, yeah, I think we should do a bunch of kids following in the footsteps. Well, we should do a short round series. Well, we should do an animated series. Well, we should do someone else is going to be Indiana Jones and they're going to graduate to the movies. Like probably everything is on the table. So it's a bake-off, ladies and gentlemen, and the best cake wins.
Here's a custard week. We shall see. I mean, this is a great point you bring up here, Mike, and swinging back to you, Shannon. The National Treasure series is about to come out, and that's all these kids inspired by the character that Nicolas Cage plays and what he goes through. And we're still getting a Nicolas Cage installment down the road, at least so far that's still in play. So you could kind of follow that. And listen, this is going to piss some of the fanboys off, but they could go the female route, which they have done with numerous series under the Disney banner, where they have a female Indiana Jones who follows in the footsteps of the original Indiana Jones. And listen, Indiana wasn't an original creation. He saw a dude, copied his look, and then became Indiana Jones, inspired by what that guy's doing. So there's a history of passing on the mantle, whether directly or indirectly, in this adventure, treasure hunting adventure angle here. So it could be any number of, it could be a person of color, it could be any number of things to explore the idea, maybe to break that kind of some of the criticism that has happened more recently about Indiana Jones being a white man going into other people's cultures and taking their artifacts or whatever. There's certainly a way that you could maybe move around that and avoid it by recasting in a certain way, or rebooting, I guess, in a certain way, this character while still maintaining the universe. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the big question mark for Indiana Jones 5 is, like, we know Phoebe Waller-Bridge is supposed to be sort of the partner in this installment. At least that's what we're led to believe at this point. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I mean, she's a very, very popular performer. I mean, just with Fleabag alone, and the idea that, oh man, I just love an idea of her and Kiwi Kwan sharing the screen together, kind of picking up that mantle and going to have, sort of further adventures. I do think Vogel is right that, the cash cow that they want for that brand, it probably wouldn't be animation, but that's still what I would like to see.
Yeah. Michael, any final words on this?
We will find out. Couldn't tell you when, but we will find out. It'll be interesting. I do think it'll be interesting to see in the long, not that they've knocked it out of the park, and we're going to talk about it further into the show, but Disney's definitely in that Star Wars business. They've got stuff coming out. Some of it not as great as we would love. Some of it exceeding all expectations, but Star Wars is alive and well with Disney, and Marvel alive and well with Disney. So whether or not you worry about overexposure, whether or not you worry about all the things you worry about with Disney, they do have a pretty good track record thus far of taking brands that we weren't sure how they were going to handle and handling them pretty well. You can throw Prey in there. It's the first good Predator movie that we've gotten in God knows how long. We've got Willow coming back in the small screen at the end of this month. So we'll see how it goes. But so, I have no idea what it could be, and how you do Indiana Jones without Harrison Ford is definitely a little bit more of a head scratcher than some other things, but I think they'll probably come up with something.
I mean, we've come up with 45 James Bonds. I feel like Indiana Jones could be recast. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I know people hold on to that thing so preciously, but possibilities. Anyways, move on let's take a quick break. We'll move on to our next topic right after this. Shout out to you on that one. We're moving on to this. Daniel Kaluuya has been announced as a new voice in the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. He is playing Spider-Punk. I have no idea. We've reached the limits of my knowledge of Spider-Man here with Spider-Punk. I have no idea who this is. Maybe Michael can enlighten us, or Shannon can. This one coming to us with Justin K. Thompson, Joaquin Dos Santos, and Kemp Powers directing this feature, and it's coming out on June 2nd of 2023. The plot details are pretty much secret. I got to see 15 minutes of it at CinemaCon that was just animatics and all that. It was really incredible. Or the drawings there that they did, it was just fun. I guess it's all computer generated, Mike. I'm sure you and Shannon can correct me on that, but it's all computer. So it's pretty cool to watch, and already it gave me an excitement to see this sequel for sure. And according to the Hollywood Reporter, the character is Hobart Hobie Brown. It's more of a recent Marvel Comics creation, first appeared in 2015 from writer Dan Slott and Oliver Quopel. I hope I'm saying that right. Brown is a homeless teenager who becomes a hero to the oppressed citizens of New York in his dimensional universe, and he's joining a cast that includes Oscar Isaac coming in as Spider-Man 2099, Brian Tyree Henry, of course, coming back, Luna Lauren Velez coming back as his parents, Miles Morales' parents, Greta Lee, Issa Rae, Rachel Dratch, shout out to Rachel Dratch, Jorma Tacone, Shea Wiggum, and Jason Schwartzman are all coming in as newcomers into the franchise as well. So, gentlemen, Daniel Kaluuya, are we liking this? Are we liking him for Spider-Punk? Where does this tell you the sequel is going here?
I mean, it seems like it is just all spider people all the time. In terms of the character, like, yeah, I'm like you, John. I had never heard of this character. Looking at the design that I'm assuming was from the books, I'm like, yeah, that looks super cool. It's a Spider-Man with a sleeveless denim jacket and a spiked mohawk. And in terms of the talent, I mean, you can't get better than Daniel Kaluuya. I mean,
Yeah.
this is Academy Award winner. There's a movie out. I don't know if you've seen it yet, John. Armageddon Time. Jeremy
That's
Strong
coming out
and
this weekend. Yeah, I did not get a chance to get out to my screening for that one, but yeah.
so there was a young actor in it named Jalen Webb, who, as I was watching him, I saw it yesterday, and just totally reminded me of a young Daniel Kaluuya. And so, and I don't know if I was thinking of Daniel Kaluuya because I had read about this news, and then I'm seeing this young actor who, to me, I'm just like, this kid just embodies Daniel Kaluuya. But I mean, at this point, like, I don't know how many spider people we're gonna have, but everyone, is so excited for the second chapter of this story, and I think Daniel Kaluuya is only going to help that.
Yeah, let's take a look at this, Mike. Before we were, so this is the character, which is pretty badass little character here, and of course Daniel Kaluuya, they're looking pretty badass himself. So, Michael, what are your thoughts on all this?
I think it's great. Spider-Punk's awesome. I mean, a lot of what we've seen in Into the Spider-Verse, and what we'll see in this one is, I wouldn't even say based on the Spider-Verse arc from back in the day, but like back in, Miles Morales existed in the Ultimate Comics, and Peter Parker is and was the OG Spider-Man in the mainline Marvel universe. And before they sort of post-Secret Wars collided everything together and Miles Morales just lived in our Marvel universe, there was lots of universes, and they did an entire like Spider-Verse arc that brought Madam Web into things, and it was all the Spider people of all the different universes coming together to fight this big evil. So they went all kinds of crazy. Like Spider-Gwen was there, Spider-Pig was there, Spider-Man Noir was there. There was an Aunt May from back in the 1800s who had a giant steampunk spider on her back. I mean, there was all, and Spider-Punk was one of them too. So he was there, he's kind of like his universe, like this isn't exactly right, but it always just struck me as like a universe where the late 80s just never stopped. And he's like the anti-establishment Spider-Man who's gonna stick it to the man with my cool punk rock, but he's a lot of fun. Like, he's a really, really fun character. And a lot of the characters that were in this Spider-Verse are kind of spun out into popularity, Spider-Gwen probably being one of the biggest. And then what they did with Spider-Noir in the first Spider-Verse movie, a lot of that was kind of pulled from who he was in the Spider-Verse comic. I think they improved on it and made it better and kind of made him a little bit more of a fully fledged character. And I think they'll do the same here. But in addition to like Oscar Isaac as Spider-Man 2099, Issa Rae as Spider-Woman, I mean, it's just like what I'm curious as what their take on Jessica Drew is going to be. I'm curious as to what their take here is going to be. Jason Schwartzman as the Spot. I don't know who Rachel Dratch is, but I know the Vulture is in the new Spider-Verse movie as a villain. And I think I read that in one of the press announcements. And just like they kind of made Doc Ock female in the first one, I wonder if Rachel Dratch might be a Vulture, because a female Adrian Toomes feels like a Rachel Dratch kind of thing to me. I
can see that.
So I mean, across the board, it's just kind of like A+ voice talent in a movie that we know is coming from an A+ creative team with an A+ animation style. So, I mean, the Spider-Man movies across the board have kind of reached a level of, it's a very high bar. Into the Spider-Verse is arguably one of the best animated movies that there is, period. And you could make an argument that it's one of the best Spider-Man movies. And then you got Spider-Man No Way Home. Like, it's just a very high bar across the whole level. And I'm jazzed. Like, every new announcement that we get just makes me more and more curious. And I think like expectations through the roof on this one.
Yeah, just to clarify for you, Mike, because I didn't know this either. Rachel Dratch is playing the principal, and Jorma Taccone from The Lonely Island, he is playing the Vulture. He's doing
Well, I like my idea better, but
I do like your idea.
I will give it to him. But I'll give it to him. Rachel Dratch is the Vulture. Do it, you cowards. But yeah, that's probably good too.
Debbie Downer as the Vulture. I'm down. I like this idea. Jimmy Fallon breaking character. Yeah, I'm down with this, and I love that they keep adding. And I think there's something about, I mean, and they might be looking at spinning off some of these. You said, Michael, like, you can go with the Spider-Gwen series. They have already talked about this and are planning it out with Haley Steinfeld. So I don't think you cast someone like Daniel Kaluuya without that possibility in mind. So he's such a great talent and people gravitate to him. He's an Oscar winner. So it makes all kinds of sense to spin him out. And for someone like, Daniel, it's like coming into the booth and just recording some lines and bringing my acting talent to it. It's a great way to kind of alleviate being on a set and all this kind of. It's a lot more of a simpler approach to things that could be fun for him to do amidst all the other stuff he's doing. Yeah, I like this idea.
Yeah, it's one of the downs. I mean, look, Sony's doing a great job with the animated Spider-Man stuff, so all props to them on that. But it's one of the downsides of it being at Sony. Like, if the Spider-Verse movies were being made under the official Marvel Disney banner, I think we would already have a CG animated Spider-Gwen series on Disney Plus.
Good point.
It's like I feel like they're doing a great job with Into the Spider-Verse, but as we have seen on the live action front, Sony doesn't quite have the spinning off part figured out.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Well, we'll see. And I can't wait for this one to come out next year. It'll be here before we know it, I imagine. All right, let's see. Let's move on to our next. Well, let's take a break. Actually, move on to our next topic here. Jumping into some trailers with Shannon McClung right after this. That's good. All right, Shannon McClung, take it away. What do you got?
We've got trailers to kick things off. We get our final trailer, I believe, for Devotion. So this is the Korean War set aviator film starring Jonathan Majors and Glenn Powell from Top Gun Maverick, directed by J.D. Dillard, who we might be talking a little about in our main topic, but he's a very up-and-coming director. This is a really interesting, the more we see of this movie, the more I'm getting excited. The first, okay. Because I saw the first teaser with Top Gun, and I was logically like, it's kind of, I just thought it was funny. I was like, oh, Glenn Powell then and Glenn Powell now. It just seemed like, I was like, oh, that's a really interesting choice for him to do in the wake of, probably, what was going to be the biggest fighter jet movie of all time. But the more we see of this, the more we get of this relationship between Jonathan Majors and Glenn Powell, and knowing that this is based on a true story. And if you don't know the actual story, do not do any research, because I made that mistake and found out some stuff. So basically, I was way into this trailer. I think it's super exciting. And again, just sort of being a precursor to the year of Jonathan Majors. I'm on board. But gentlemen, what did you all think of our potentially final look at Devotion?
I liked it. I'm going to see it as we're recording. I'm going to see it tonight. So I'm curious and excited to see what we're going to get. I've read some of the reviews. Overall, they say it's a good film, not a great film, but that Jonathan Majors is the standout. And so that, to me, gets me excited, because I haven't seen him deliver a bad performance yet. From all the way back to The Last Black Man in San Francisco to now, he's just delivered some fantastic work in all these different kinds of genres. So why not something a little more mainstream like this? And we saw him already in that Creed 3 trailer, Sweet Mary Mother of God. So getting a chance to see him in something a little more mainstream, a little more inspirational, telling a true story here. There's not a lot of movies about Korea done in the world of film. So it's a new terrain that he's walking in a way. And with Glenn Powell there, telling a story. Of course, nowadays, when we're so divided, a story bringing black and white together that actually happened in our history, in our country's history, is a good thing, and getting to take a look at it. So, but the imagery of the action sequences in the sky, all that stuff looks awesome. So, if nothing else, if the story is a bit cheesy or strays into the Lifetime area, that's fine with me. If we get some incredible visuals of the action sequences and the fighter pilot stuff in the sky, for sure. And I can't resist a good biopic, or at least a based on true story film for me. So what did you think, Mike?
I think that's good. The Glenn Powell part is a little bit distracting, just only because it's like, is this like the Top Gunniverse? Like, is this supposed to be his uncle, his grandfather? But like, like to your point, it's just like it's an interesting choice to be like, Top Gun Maverick, what are you gonna do next? Let's stick with the plane thing. Let's keep that going. Because you just can't help it. You watch it and you watch him. And I think, kind of to John's point, because the action sequences and the visual effects do look so good, that seeing him, you're kind of like, oh yeah, like this is going to be like, this is the promise of seeing a period piece that is like Top Gun, but in period planes. Do you know what I mean? Like in a complimentary way. Like it looks like it has that sort of visceral feel to it. So the comparison just sort of lives in my head every time I watch it. Look, Jonathan Majors, I'm with John. Like he hasn't had a bad performance. He's one of the, like he is such a good actor that it, again, is almost distracting. Like there's people that are just so good that you're like in the middle of watching something that you're super intense and like involved in, you're like, fuck, they're good. Like that is good. Yeah. And he kind of has that thing going for him where like in any of the things that I've seen him in, you just kind of have a moment where you're just like, this guy is legit. Yeah. So yeah, I'm super, super excited for it. Our friend Josh Moon and I always used to joke that like summer was always like my season of the movies because it was all like the giant tentpole popcorn movies, but like winter was his time of year for movies because it was when the serious movies came out. So I like watched this and I was like, oh yeah, this is like a Josh Moon movie. Like this is a grown-up movie. So I'm excited to go see a grown-up movie.
Well, we're all going to get to see that grown-up movie on November 23rd, unless you're the outlaw John Rocha and you get to see it tonight or tomorrow. So
drive on down, Shannon. Come on. Let's go.
Our next trailer, very, very short, but we get the teaser for The Whale. So this is the movie that a lot of people are talking about. Brendan Fraser winning some statues. It's from Darren Aronofsky of the wrestler fame. We don't see a ton here. I mean, it's about a minute. We find out that I didn't know who else is in it besides Brendan Fraser, but we find out that Hong Chow is in it, Sadie Sink from Stranger Things. The trailer just reads to me like we are going to make you cry. And that's pretty much the extent that I got from it. Like I was already interested in seeing it because of the accolades that Brendan Fraser has gotten leading up to its release. But I'll throw it over to you, gentlemen. What did you think of that very brief look at The Whale?
Mike?
All I took away from it, kind of same thing. You're like, all anybody has talked about with The Whale was like Brendan Fraser's performance. Guys, Brendan Fraser's performance. Like this is like a career-topping thing for Brendan Fraser. And you're like, okay. And then you watch like this 1-minute trailer and I have no idea what the movie's about. I have no idea what's going on, but I'm like, sure, yeah, that's it. Brendan Fraser. Like, it's like, that's the trailer. The trailer is you just see him and you're like, this is not the guy that was in the George of the Jungle and The Mummy. This is a different Brendan Fraser. And I don't know if it's because of all the hype or because of this trailer or it's a combination of both, but knowing literally nothing about what actually this movie is or what it's about, I'm like, it is like top of my list to see.
Yeah.
Like just looking at Brendan Fraser in this trailer, I was like, yeah, okay, like he's nominated for an Oscar. I don't know what the movie's about. I've seen nothing of his performance except for the 30 seconds or so in this trailer. And I was like, yeah, sure. So, okay, Brendan Fraser's at the Oscars this year. Get ready. It's going to be a thing. I'm ready for it. It's just between him and the Darren Aronofsky of it all. You're like, okay, cool. I get what I'm in for. I don't know what I'm in for, but I get what I'm in for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100% agree with you, man. I mean, if the music helps too, that those violins coming in as you're completely putting you into that mindset as you're watching the sequences and what he says at the end, right? People can be pretty incredible. Look, again, we're at a time now where we're really doubting each other all over the place on social media and other places. So film kind of showing you the best of what we can be as human beings, possibly. And of course, a guy who's it seems to be struggling with his weight, plus a very unflattering title for this movie about certainly people who have struggled with their weight as I have, and many people who listen have, the idea of being called a whale is something you get real scared about and have maybe heard in your life. And so it has a lot of connotations to it. And so seeing a guy, seeing Brendan Fraser looking the way he looks in the trailer, it makes you think, oh my God, is this going to be one of those things that really just absolutely decimates you? It gave me shades of What's Eating Gilbert Grape, of course, The Wrestler, which he did before. So, and even from the 1-minute trailer, I was like, oh man, I'm not going to make it through this movie. I'm not going to make it through this goddamn movie. So that is a great way to get me excited to see it. And I'm seeing that December 1st. So I can't wait to see that already and lose my shit. I'm just saying, man, you know what? You are the last one to be clapping. Let me just put that on the table.
Tell me some more. How earlier you get to see the movies than I do.
um, but so I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. It looks great. And you're right, Michael. Everyone's been saying pencil him in, pencil him in. A lot of people talking Colin Farrell and Banshees and the Son, Hugh Jackman in the Son. So I can't wait to see the Son as well, to see if those are the leading candidates for going into the best actor Oscar race. So yeah.
Well, we are all going to get to see The Whale December 9th, not December 1st, like John, the outlaw.
Days.
The outlaw Rocha, but those
right.
8 days, they say so much.
You know what?
And on to our last trailer, which is our second look at Glass Onions, a Knives Out mystery.
Glass onion, not glass onions.
Just one onion. Just
sorry,
one.
sorry. If I had seen it early, I would have known that it was singular. It wasn't plural. Glass Onion. So again, another title that I'm not quite sure how it connects to the film. But I mean, the more we see of this movie, the more it looks like it's going to be so much fun. I mean, you have an incredible cast. You have the returning Daniel Craig, the returning Rian Johnson, set in just a beautiful locale. It looks like there's going to be some sort of musical sequence with Kate Hudson, Catherine Hahn, acting exasperated, always funny. Gentlemen, what did you all think of our second look at Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. Batista going crazy. Kate Hudson looking like she's having a ball. Catherine Hahn, the queen that is now Catherine Hahn. Janelle Monáe kind of being quiet, staying to the side, monitoring everything, and then finding out that there's a past with all of these characters at a bar called Glass Onion. That, I imagine that's why this is why that's the title. But also, Rian Johnson came out and said that he was looking through Glass stuff. He knew Glass was going to be in the title, and he stumbled upon the old Beatles song from 1968, Glass Onion, and that's how he came up with that title. And Glass Onion also means something that is multi-layered yet transparent. So I'm sure there's a lot that's going to be involved in this, and so I'm looking forward to it. And Daniel Craig looks funny. I mean, him going off about Kaluuya at the end, that was hilarious. So it's got an unusual approach, but it looks like a lot of fun for sure. Mike, what are your thoughts?
I think I said this when we watched the first trailer, but I feel like, is Rian Johnson the new Agatha Christie? Like, I mean, it's there's something fun about like Murder on the Orient Express. Death on the Nile is a movie that exists, but like, just the whole idea of what those movies sort of pitch themselves as, which is, here's this epic mystery with a star-studded cast. And they're nice and they're good. Well, Murder on the Orient Express was fun. Death on the Nile is a movie and it exists. But I feel like between Knives Out and then what everyone is saying about Glass Onion, this feels like everything that we were promised with those movies wrapped in a much better package. It is an all-star cast with a very colorful detective at the center of it, just star-studded, and it's a compelling mystery. It's a compelling whodunit, but if Glass Onion is going to follow in the footsteps of Knives Out, there's also some level of social or political commentary that is not hitting you over the head and doesn't get in the way of the fun of the mystery, but actually kind of like deepens the characters, deepens the motivations, deepens the everything behind the whodunit to make it all like much more satisfying. So, if he's kind of got this whole thing planned, if we're going to continue to get these movies. And Knives Out, like, it was a compelling mystery. Like, the most fun thing about seeing Knives Out for the first time in the theater is you were sitting there trying to figure it out. You were trying to put the pieces together, and you were having a blast doing it. And then when it was all revealed at the end, you still didn't quite see it all coming. So if he manages to do that again, let him keep making them. Like, give us all the mysteries. Cast everybody in them. It's the new Marvel universe, except it's the
Benoit Blancaverse. Benoit Blancaverse.
The Blancaverse.
Yeah, you make an excellent point, Mike, because it's a tech billionaire that Edward Norton is playing, and he's calling them all there. Imagine his friends are people he worked with or was friends with. And he was going to stage his own murder as a fun little thing, but actually someone else gets killed. So is there going to be commentaries as we see a tech billionaire taking over Twitter? Is there going to be commentaries here about tech billionaires, social commentary, and how we are a bit too beholden to them in our worlds? That's a great point. Yeah. And
what's great about Knives Out is that you were just saying it, John, like we do live in a time right now where we, given the midterm election this week, were pretty divided. But Knives Out didn't say, oh, liberal good, conservative bad, or conservative good, liberal bad. It was like, hey, it doesn't matter if you're liberal, conservative, rich white people are bad. And it was great, and it was a lot of fun. And so I think, similarly, like, it'll be interesting to see like what he's saying here, how he chooses to say it, and how it sort of feeds into a really fun, compelling, silly, over the top mystery.
As Brian Johnson got, they paid $425 million for both these movies. So, it's going to be interesting. Will he explore himself in the next one? I wonder.
Well, it is going to be dropping. It is an early Christmas gift coming to Netflix December 23rd, but it's also going to be in select theaters for a limited 1-week engagement, a Thanksgiving present starting November 23rd. So check your local Cineplexes and see if you can see Glass Onion, singular, in the theater.
I'll have to go with everybody else. There was no screening for that. So, all right, so let's take a quick break and we'll jump into our big Star Wars conversation right after this. Good. All right, let's talk about this. Michael Vogel, we're going to start with you. Shawn Levy is in talks to direct a Star Wars film after the Deadpool 3 and the Stranger Things final episodes. What do you think about this as his choice to come aboard to direct and develop a Star Wars film? And why do you think they chose someone like Shawn Levy?
Well, first of all, I think this is a great idea.
Okay.
I think he is perfectly positioned to give us exactly what we want. Stranger Things, first of all, manages to balance giving us something fresh and new and 80s nostalgia, which is a dangerous tightrope that could go one way or the other really easily. And they've really managed over the course of 5 seasons. We can all argue season 2 and maybe it didn't quite get there. But aside from that, they've really managed to nail this sort of, I feel like I'm watching something from the 80s, but I feel like it's new and different and I'm super invested in these characters. So as we talk about what Star Wars is, why it works, what we love about it, that's a tough balance, and he's the guy to do it. Additionally, Free Guy, great. It is funny, it is unique, it has a ton of heart. In an era of just recycling IP, it was something that was new and different, and I feel like Free Guy knocks it out of the park. Yeah. And even The Adam Project on Netflix, which is not, the greatest of all movies, compared to a lot of the other Netflix original movies, it's at least a solid one, and it's a lot of heart, a lot of emotion. It might not be the greatest thing in the world. It might not be something that if you saw in theaters, you would have been blown away by, but it's a very sweet movie. It's got a ton of heart. So he does genre stuff. He gets the geek audience. He gets the geek sensibility and sense of humor. So post Deadpool 3, him jumping over to Star Wars, I actually think his Star Wars movie might be the first one we end up actually seeing.
You think over Damon Lindelof and over Taika Waititi's film?
Yeah, I mean, look, Taika Waititi's film, I think the last thing that he said about it, he was doing an interview with the New York Times. He said, I'm trying to write the Star Wars idea at the moment. I got to see how that goes, because once I submit it, that might determine when it gets made or even if it gets made. So I don't think that Taika Waititi one is super far down the pipe. Now, the Damon Lindelof one, I think, is the other one. I think this news coming so soon after the Damon Lindelof news makes me think that Lucasfilm might finally be figuring some shit out.
Okay.
I think that the issue that Star Wars has is they are very comfortable filling in the gaps. Star Wars is kind of like I said earlier that I think Clone Wars kind of saved Star Wars, but Clone Wars even is something that it fills in the gaps. There's a gap between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and Filoni and team came in and they filled that gap. Rogue One, Solo, Star Wars Rebels, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, they are all filling that gap between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope. Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Boba Fett all fill in the gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. So, they're really good at saying, well, here's what we've established in the world, and let's have some people come and play within those gaps. But when it comes to, okay, well, Rise of Skywalker was a movie, and it happened, and Emperor Palpatine came back somehow, but then Kylo Ren and Daisy and Rey got him. and they all ran on some spaceships, and then she buried a lightsaber. The end. Nobody knows what's coming next. And I think them trying to figure out what those next steps are is the reason that we've seen so many people kind of be announced. Oh, hey, this is a good idea. And then everybody freaks out and says, oh, no, wait, back up. We don't know. So, I think Shawn Levy's as good a name as any to kind of take us in a bold direction. Damon Lindelof as well, just given Watchmen, is clearly someone who's not afraid to take on a how do you follow this up kind of challenge and follow it up in a way that is not what you expected but was totally amazing. So between these two announcements, I think these are the ones that I'm most interested in out of everyone who's been announced so far.
Yeah. Shannon, we're just about finishing up Andor. Acolyte is already starting to shoot with Leslie Headland, and the cast has been announced. Those seem like slightly more serious. Obviously, Andor is, but certainly Acolyte might be as well. More serious approaches to Star Wars. Is this a way for them to appeal to the more mainstream approach, which has the wink and humor along with some of the more serious stuff going on with Star Wars? When you ask someone like Shawn Levy to step in here and and develop a Star Wars film for you?
I mean, that's certainly possible. I mean, all of the reasons that Vogel gave for why this could be a great Star Wars movie, I think are perfectly valid. I also think there are reasons why he's a very, very safe choice, which I think could translate to a kind of middling film. Now, I thought Free Guy was fantastic. Yeah. I did not think The Adam Project was. I think it's going to come down to who the creative team that is going to be with him, who's going to be guiding him, because phase 4 aside, I mean, you look at the majority of the MCU and how Kevin Feige and his team were very integral through the production of those films, and how they had a very sure hand guiding the film. I don't think that we've never had a great creative producer with the Disney era of Star Wars. So, I mean, we could get Free Guy, or we could get the Adam Project. So it just kind of depends. The Lindelof one, I'm interested in the script, because I do think Damon Lindelof, I mean, all criticisms of Lost aside, I mean, I think Damon Lindelof tells a really, really good story, and the fact that he is a big Star Wars fan, I think is encouraging. The director, is it Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, who directed 2 episodes of Miss Marvel? That one I'm not so jazzed with. I think a lot of her action was nonsensical. Now, was that her? Was that the production? We don't know. She also did that incredible flashback episode. So it's I don't know which one. I don't know which one we're gonna get here. The one that had all the action, I thought was not well done at all. Whereas the emotional depth that we got in that flashback episode, I mean, if they're able to take that emotional depth with, I imagine, the intellectual depth that Lindelof's script could, and then get into that solid Star Wars action, that could be a really exciting film. Of the two, I mean, and granted, Shawn Levy being announced as director, that, to my knowledge, that is the extent that we know about that movie. We don't know who's writing. So just with the amount of announcement that happened with the Lindelof movie causes me to be a little more excited. But again, Shawn Levy could deliver a great movie. I think it just depends on who he's going to be working with.
Yeah, what are the odds on Ryan Reynolds showing up as one of the species in makeup? I think that's pretty high, I would say. But because you don't want to see a Ryan Reynolds Jedi, do you? Do you want to see a Ryan Reynolds Jedi? I feel like no.
People used to think they didn't want to see a Sam Jackson Jedi, and now all we talk about is how Mace Windu survived getting thrown out of a building by Palpatine. So.
Did anyone say that they weren't excited to see Samuel L. Jackson? I don't think.
People did. People did.
People were excited.
There was it kind of listen. You don't remember. You was a long time ago. You
both the same.
You don't know.
There was I think because when the Star Wars movies came out, the original ones, particularly New Hope, everybody, had been in some stuff, but nobody was a runaway movie star. And so when the prequels came out and you cast some people that were very, very big names, it didn't feel as Star Wars. And look, I'm not saying I agree with that now. Like, there was a ton of stuff that people didn't love about the prequels because it didn't feel Star Wars. And now, so many years in animated series and TV series and everything later, most of that stuff feels pretty Star Wars. So I'm not saying that that was correct, but I think that there was kind of that feeling.
Yeah, I wonder about it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. This feels like it's going to have a lighter touch. Lindelof feels like it's going to be a way darker touch. And so that makes sense. And there's rumors that he's going to find a way to bring Daisy Ridley and Boyega and Oscar Isaac back as their characters in a kind of way of kind of bridging to the sequel trilogy and making it okay to maybe use these characters again and soothing some feelings that they all had as actors in that whole experience. And I imagine Kelly Marie Tran will be a part of that as well, Rose Tico in some way. So there's possibilities there. So that's going to be a much darker thing. I think what they see in Shawn Levy is mainstream stuff, Spielberg-esque, and let's go and get this guy who's funny and, as Michael said, can capture that 80s, but also walk that line with some of the serious stuff. So, but you're right, Adam Project, that was a little underwhelming. I wanted to like it because I really enjoyed Free Guy, but it was okay. So you wonder, like, what Star Wars film are we going to get from a guy like this? And you're right, Shannon, to point this out. Who's writing this with him? On the Lindelof side, though, you don't remember any of the directors from the Watchmen series. It's Lindelof that you think about. Yeah. And so I think working with this director from Ms. Marvel, and we don't know that how much of Feige was involved in, like, make this as simple and easy and good to connect to as possible. Let's make it safe. Let's not. Blah, blah, blah. Whereas with Lindelof, I think he can say, all right, we're taking all the restrictors off. Let's do something pretty awesome. Let's get real deep and discover what we can do in Star Wars that is in the Andor vein. And I think that's what we're seeing, and I could be way off, but I think it's what we're seeing is like these two separate strands being now created in Star Wars, the more serious, grittier approach here that was promised from the beginning and is now finally coming to fruition in a way. And this other side that understands we need to appeal to all the quadrants with the stuff that we do. And so I think that's great. It's a good balance. It allows us to enjoy what we want to enjoy, and both are valid. I'm tired of hearing how Andor isn't Star Wars. Please. And so we can create all of that to exist in the same universe. So I think Shawn Levy is a good choice. He's an up-and-coming director. He's a young director. And I wonder if they've taken a pitch from him and are very impressed with what he brought to the table. All that being said, though, Kathleen has no problem being like, you know what? You're not the guy. Get on out. I don't care if you've shot 80% of the movie and you're very well respected amongst your peers and you've never had a bad project. You're out, so she has no problem doing that if it doesn't feel like it's the right thing down the road. So for now, it seems cool, but it doesn't mean he's going to end up making his film for sure.
Yeah, and like thinking back to Taika, it seems like the sort of stinging criticism that he got in the wake of Love and Thunder.
Oof, yeah,
I kind of feel like he may be stepping back from the big blockbuster filmmaking for a little bit. I think that may have it cut him and he bled a little bit, and he was riding that wave for so long where everyone loved him. And, now he made the one movie. And again, who knows how much control he had over it. I mean, when you see these sort of deleted scenes where Thor's talking to Zeus and they seem to have a very, congenial relationship, it's like, okay, there were some changes that happened during production here. So you don't know how much he actually is to blame. I mean, you look at the amount of humor that it had, and that's certainly something that he brings to a lot of his projects. So, I mean, obviously all the fingers are going to point at him. But that Taika Star Wars movie, I feel like that's like the Rian Johnson trilogy. I don't think we'll ever see. Oh yeah, that'll ever see the light of day. I mean, and I would have to assume the Kevin Feige Star Wars movie as well is probably not going to make it past whatever stage it's in right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this also though sort of represents the problem with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Which is, and I don't know, maybe they've figured this out and they're trying to figure it out, but like, it shouldn't be Taika Waititi's Star Wars or David Lindelof Star Wars or Shawn Levy's Star Wars or Patty Jenkins Star Wars. Like it should be Star Wars and and what I mean by that is it's not Taika Waititi's Marvel Universe. Taika Waititi does a Thor movie. It's not James Gunn Marvel Universe. James Gunn does the Guardians movies, but they all sort of are building these things that have different tones and different vibes, to John's point. Some are more serious, some are funnier and sillier, but they all still feel like the Marvel Universe. And granted, Marvel has a roadmap. There's 60 years of comic books that they can pull from, and Star Wars, there's no roadmap. That's what they do really good playing within the spaces because there's a little bit of a roadmap. We know where Revenge of the Sith ends. We know where New Hope picks up. So giving somebody the reins to say, tell this story is easier. But I think the reason that we sort of have this revolving door is because Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm are like, cool. So what happens next? Like where? So the Empire's gone and we did the First Order. Now they're gone. I don't think Palpatine can come back again. I don't think people are going to go for it. So, And I think that's what's happening. I think that Rian Johnson comes in and says, well, this is how we're going to regrow the Jedi Order, and this is the threat. And Taika Waititi comes in and says, I want to tell this story over on this planet with these aliens. And Damon Lindelof is like, well, look, with Watchmen, we had a similar problem. And so this is how we handled it. And it would be great to do this. And everyone has a kind of take on where it should go, and there's excitement about it, and then it probably goes up the ladder, and everybody talks about it, and then everybody gets nervous about it, and everyone's just really, really afraid because nobody quite knows what should come next in Star Wars. Yeah. You can't, J.J. Abrams, we talked about this before, but like, we were all so excited for something that felt like Star Wars that we kind of said, okay, it's the Resistance and not the Rebellion. It's the First Order and not the Empire, but it looks cool and it feels like Star Wars. But like, I think this is where they can take a lot of lessons from the High Republic and why I'm really excited for the Acolyte. Because over in publishing with the High Republic, they went and charted some new territory.
Yeah.
100 years before Yoda's there, but he's kind of not there for most of it. But it's a bunch of Jedi. Coruscant is there, but it's a very different Coruscant than what we know from the prequels or Andor. And here's a whole bunch of new Jedi characters you've never heard of before, and they're not fighting the Empire, and they're not fighting the Sith. They're fighting this other villain, the Nihil, however you say it. And so I think like they managed to create something that is brand new for Star Wars that we've never kind of seen or explored before, but it still feels a lot like Star Wars. And I think that they did a really good job. Like I like those books, and I'm excited for the Acolyte to sort of bring some of that High Republic era to life and see how it goes. But they need to do the same thing at the opposite end, and I think they're very, very scared of it.
Yeah. So Chan, did you want to add to that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I agreeing with what Vogel says. I haven't read nearly as much of the High Republic as he has. I read Light of the Jedi. But yeah, I mean, I think delving into a completely different era is something that they need to do. I mean, the log line that they kind of released about the Acolyte, how a former Padawan teams up with her Jedi Master for kind of like this mystery, like that. To me, that sounds awesome. And it'll be really interesting to see which direction they go in, because the creator of Russian Doll, that's a funny show.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see like if it's going to be sort of that light and fun, or if it's going to be more Andor-like. And I think kind of looking at the critical success of Andor, that it's kind of my worry is they're going to see how well that turned out and be like, ooh, that we need to do that. Just sort of adopting that serious tone without understanding what made it successful. The tone was a part of it, but it has to be more than that.
Yeah, the writing, the acting, the score, all of that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's what I wonder about too, is like, okay, great. Let's go down this route. Let's pick the right people. Just like you've been very careful about how you pick who's going to make what on this side. Let's make sure if we're going to open that door to the grittier stuff, that you pick the right people to come in and explore it. And don't be afraid to expand the genre a little bit more. And all this, everyone now is responding with how much they love that most recent episode of Andor. And that's telling you it takes time to build this thing. But when they do, there's great rewards in the end. And I imagine Lindelof will explore that as well and open that door even more to see. And now that obvious social commentary can be something that is part of a Star Wars series, I imagine Lindelof is even more excited to see it coming into his movie, possibly, or making it a part of his movie, for sure. But yeah.
But I think also, this is a bigger conversation, maybe for a whole other episode of Geek Buddies. But I think we fall into this. I mean, even though you're saying that both sides are valid and that Star Wars can be both things, which I totally agree with, I think that also sort of falls into this binary argument that is like, because Andor is so gritty and so different than, Clone Wars or Rebels or Force Awakens.
And that's not to say Clone hasn't had some pretty
for sure. Well, but I think that's actually the point, is that there's this idea that you're either a fan of gritty, real Star Wars, or you're a fan of like fun, light, kid-friendly Star Wars. And I think that misses the point. Like, the fact that both of those things exist and both of those things feel like Star Wars means that, like, to your point, like going in and taking the lesson from Andor that, they want the gritty, real thing, let's do more of that, that's not it. Andor does feel like Star Wars. It's the Empire. It's Coruscant. It really understands how the Empire works better than a lot of other Star Wars things do. But I think that it's that heart that's underneath. It's that DNA that makes Star Wars that Filoni and Favreau, you watch Mandalorian and you're like, that you get it. That's Star Wars. It's the epic mythical tale of Mandalore and the Darksaber and Grogu and what is he going to grow into and all the fun stuff. And then Andor takes the other end of it and tells another story, but they both feel so much like Star Wars that there is a DNA underneath both that is actually the same.
Yeah.
And it's just different expressions of it. But I think the danger is thinking that Star Wars is either this kid-friendly, lots of aliens, let's have some CG fun stuff, or Andor. It's like, it actually is both. Yeah. So really kind of diving in and being like, okay, well, why do these both work? How come these can both exist and they both feel great? What's underneath this that really works? And figuring that out is the key. Whoever figures that out will then figure out what the next chapter of Star Wars is going to be and hopefully make us all very, very happy.
That's a great point. Great point. All right, well, let's wrap it up there. I thought that was a really nice discussion there about the Shawn Levy developing and possibly directing, developing and directing a new Star Wars movie, and who else might be involved in all this as we go forward for a new Star Wars film, which a lot of people in the Star Wars fandom are starting to itch for. So we'll see what ends up being the one that makes it. There you go. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching this episode of Geek Buddies. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at geek_buddies, on Instagram at _geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mikey?
If you like geek conversations and hearing how much earlier John gets to see movies than the rest of us, then we have got a great series of shows for you. Here's what you guys can do so that Rocha can continue to see movies before the rest of us. Smash that like button below. Subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page so you can check out all the amazing content and all the amazing trailer reactions and movie reactions he does to the movies he gets to see before us. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you think about everything. What are your thoughts on an Indiana Jones series? What did you think of the trailers? What do you think of the Spider-Verse? And most importantly, where do you think Star Wars should go next? Maybe one of you has the idea that Lucasfilm needs to hear.
Come on.
If you are listening to us on a podcast, leave us some stars, leave us some comments. It helps us go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing that you guys can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
Go. And of course, big shout out to Carbon Health, who continues to power and sponsor us here on the Geek Buddies heading into 2023. Thank you much to them. Please, if you've got any healthcare questions, concerns, or needs, head on over to carbonhealth.com. Get checked out today. They have virtual care, in-person care, 80 clinics in California, 120 plus locations all over the country for you to get checked out. Or if you want to download their app, you can have a dock in your pocket for any of those concerns and questions and needs you have on the road. All right, take care of yourselves. Be well. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Geek Buddies. And don't forget, we've got ourselves a spoiler review for Andor coming out soon as well. Look for that from us this week. Take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode from the
Geek